It is the world's first and the largest corporate homeopathy institution, which now has global presence. Now, in his career of over 4 decades, Dr. Batra has treated over 1 million patients, including some dignitaries like the presidents, prime ministers, prominent film personalities, and has revolutionized the way homeopathy is being practiced today. He has been honored with several national and international awards, including the Padma Shri, which is one of the highest civilian awards in India. Also, not many people know that he's the first Asian homeopath to be awarded the honorary fellowships from British and American professional institutions, and the only Indian homeopath to be invited to address the Academic Pediatric Association at an international convention. What most people also do not know is that there's a film which has been based on his research and clinical cases, which has been shot in Hollywood and is part of the course material for postgraduate students of homeopathy across the globe. He's written several books, and one of his recent books that he's launched is called Homeopathy, Simple Remedy for All Ages. Welcome to you to Business World Healthcare, Dr. Batra. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
So my first question to you, Dr. Batra, is, can you briefly just explain what is the origin of homeopathy? Where did it all begin?
So it all began in Germany by a German doctor who was an MD doctor during his time from the Leipzig University, which is, really very, very prestigious. At that time, you didn't have so many MD doctors. And he then kind of got disillusioned with the methods of practice during his time, because that time there was bloodletting, leeching. It was believed that disease comes from bad blood, and therefore we should get rid of it and allow blood to come back again, the good blood to reform again. So that was really a very old theory at that time. It was pre-antibiotic area. So he gave up his practice, and he said that one of his sons died for some problem. He said, "I'm a doctor, I couldn't help my son. So what is the use of this system of medicine?" And he gave up his practice, and then he was a linguist. So he started translating books. And in the footnote of one of the books, he came across a note, which was like a Cullen's Materia Medica. And it was written over there, saying that homeopathy cures malaria because, malaria is cured because it is bitter. And he then said that there are so many medicines which are bitter, but they don't cure malaria. So he then started experimenting on himself, and he started taking quinine himself. And he then started developing symptoms like quinine, like malaria, not malaria. And he then formulated this whole principle of likes cure likes, on which homeopathy is based. So that's really the origin of it. It's very similar to the vaccine therapy, what we now are using as vaccines, because you introduce a very small portion of a poison or a bacteria or a virus in the human body, and then the body reacts against it and builds natural immunity. That's really how it works. Just to add to this little story is, how did it come to India? So that's very interesting because, it came through India through Punjab, and it came through the court of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. So, the Maharaja had a sore throat, and it was because of paralysis of the vocal cord. Lots of singers get it as well. They lose their voice because they sing too much and they strain the voice. So he then got one of Hahnemann's followers from Austria to come and treat him. And when he came with the first homeopathic medicine that was given in India, it was a medicine called Aurum triphyllum, and with that medicine, his vocal cord paralysis disappeared and he could talk again. And from them, he then started joining the court of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. And then the missionaries came, and then they spread homeopathy all over India. And then, of course, it got legalized as a system of medicine, and the rest is history.
Wow, these are certain things that we don't get to read in the books, etc. And it's not. So thank you so much for sharing this. But what is very interesting is the way that you have taken it to the world, because and there are a lot of people who've been practicing homeopathy. They've been there, they've had their clinics. But very few people have thought of taking it beyond their clinic and making it, accessible and popularize it. So how did you think of taking homeopathy to the world, and what was your inspiration to do so?
I think one day I just got it from the wrong side of the bed. I think these are things which really can't be explained. They just happen. A lot of it is incidental. A lot of it is opportunities that come your way, and then you grab them, and then you grow them. I don't think that I ever had a 5-year business plan. I don't think I had a vision when I started out as a doctor. But I think my only purpose in life was to reach homeopathy to the maximum number of people. And I did that for a long time. I wrote an articles on homeopathy for 10 years in the Illustrated Weekly of India, which was the longest column that I ran. I had people writing me postcards and asking for advice, from all over India. I conducted a health show for Z Television, which was the largest health show of 3.5 years, which then ran internationally as well. I would go to London and then shoot in the London studio a live program all over Europe for ZTV. I've also, spoken to media, BBC. Now I'm talking to you. So I think it's people like you who actually then popularize homeopathy and, give an opportunity for more people to learn about it. So I'm just an instrument. I've just, try to see that what is important, of course, is the dream that you have and the passion that you have. So I have a passion for homeopathy. I mean, my dream is Har Ghar Mein Homeopathy, Har Ghar Mein Dr. Batra. I'm saying which is why we came out with our products. So I'm just looking at making sure that as many people can benefit from homeopathy. That is my dream. And towards this, I do whatever is necessary. So whether I have to go to LA or whether I have to shoot in a Hollywood studio to popularize it, or whether I have to teach MD doctors in California or in London or whatever, or teach Indian doctors or veterinary doctors, all over on homeopathy and animal care and how it can be used. It's a passion. And I think if you have a passion with a purpose, then it's Sone Pe Suhaga. It gets even better. Again, let me mention that none of this is easy. So you may have a dream, you have a passion, but you need perseverance to follow it. And lots of the challenges I had to take homeopathy to other countries, it was always challenging because when I went to Mauritius, and I met the vice president and he said, I'll put you behind bars because homeopathy is not legalized in my country if you dare to practice it here. But I went every weekend, I sat outside, I convinced them. And in 6 months' time, I was able to set up the first homeopathy clinic in Mauritius, but also legalized it in the country. I mean, I got an act passed in Parliament in favor of homeopathy. So I think all of this, takes a lot of effort. But, there's a little Hindi saying which I'd like to quote. Kadam choom leti hai manzili aakar. Kadam choom leti hai manzili aakar agar rahi khud apni himmat na. So, nothing comes without toil, sweat, blood. And saying that people should not look at, we are also standing on the shoulders of other people. I mean, there are so many homeopaths in the past who've contributed so much towards homeopathy. I mean, what am I doing? I'm standing on their shoulders and then taking it to the world.
Correct. So I think this is very beautiful because beyond just homeopathy and the conversation that we're having today, I think this is a very powerful message that you've given that, purpose along with passion, but it has to be fueled with perseverance. And that is when you actually get the results. I think this is a very beautiful 3P.
The 3P mantra now, you just discovered it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. My next question to you is based on this only, sir. With passage of time, people get contented, people slow down and they have other people doing it. You seem to not lose not just your focus, but also your pace. What drives you to keep this energy up? Beyond the 3P.
Yes,
beyond the 3P. It has to be something beyond. Kuch to hai, sir.
I think very important thing other than the 3Ps is belief in yourself. Right. What happens is when people don't believe in themselves, then they slow down. I'm saying I believe that I have the energy to change the world. I believe I can do it. I believe I can do it single-handedly. Okay. I mean, if you have a prime minister who thinks that he can change India, I think I can bring alternative and complementary system of medicine to the world. It will happen one day. Okay. Right. It may take long time. Okay. And already homeopathy is a contender because today we are a challenger medicine. I mean, I call homeopathy because according to World Health Organization, is the second largest system of medicine in the world and is the youngest. So in the last 250 years, we've now been able to position it as a number 2 system of medicine in the world. Now, that's not easy at all. And when you're challenger medicine, then there are people to put you down. So you have to actually fight criticism. You have to be very strong. You have to persevere. And that gives you the strength. It actually gives you the internal strength then to become stronger. And I think when you fail, and then you fail again, but then you get up never to fail again, ever.
That is so brilliant.
So failure is actually a stepping stone to success. I mean, I must share with you here, since we are just having a very nice, interesting chat. When I was 60 years old, my son sent me to Harvard Business School to do a course in medical excellence. Okay, I was the oldest student over there. And that is really where I learned that you have to have this knowledge, this drive for excellence, in everything that you do. Of course, it's very important in medical excellence as well. But in anything that you do, you have to outreach yourself, and you have to have this dream of really doing something which is outside the box. If you have that, then you'll find a way to do it. And that's really what keeps me going. And I think I also keep reinventing myself. So, I started as a doctor. Okay. And then I had general practice. So I was seeing 325 patients in a day. I suddenly realized that I am, really got, if I may use the word, too many people. I didn't know who was getting well. I didn't know who was, somebody would meet me and say, you cured me last time I met you. Somebody would meet me and say, your medicine didn't work, So I was not getting job satisfaction because I was really, touching people's lives very quickly, very fast. It was like how you have in Kaun Banega Crorepati, faster fingers first. You literally get onto your laptop and you press the button and you get the right medicine. And, hopefully, I would say maybe more than 90% of people were getting cured. But then, you didn't get a feedback, and then you didn't get the satisfaction. So at the peak of my career, I gave up my practice and I started what I call specialty clinics. So I researched for 1.5 years. And I actually took out all my old case studies. Of that time, I had about 50,000 cases on the computer. I took them all out, researched it, and identified 14 disorders for which we got very good results through my practice and through homeopathy. And I then restricted my practice to these 14 diseases. So my practice fell from 325 patients a day to 2 patients a week. But I stuck it out. I'm saying I could have given up then. But I said, no, this is the way forward. I must give enough time to my patients. They must get the benefit of my experience. And I must get a feedback saying that I must participate in their well-being and in their wellness, and I must see it till the end. It should not be like a general practice that, you give a shot and the guy runs away and then you never see him again, So I did that. I held the hand over a period of time. And I'm very happy to say that because of that perseverance, within 1 year's time, I had no appointment for another year. So if you wanted to see me as a doctor, you had to see me, 2023 or 2024, because all the appointments were full, So I think you have to keep reinventing yourself. Then when you reinvent yourself, then there's a new challenge. And every time there's a new challenge, then you have to surpass it. So similarly, then in 2000, I started my corporate. I started a company. I said, no, I'm a doctor. I'm going to multi-city practice. I started practicing in Bangalore, in Baroda, in Delhi, and, personally going to all these cities and setting up clinics over there. And then I said, how can I keep doing this all my life? It can't be done. So let me corporatize it. Now that took another 10 years. So for that, I had to build processes, systems, all of that, Then I wanted to professionalize it. So I wanted to move from an owner manager to a kind of a professional manager, and to then bring professional management on board. So for the last almost 10 years now, all my companies are professionally managed. I have a group CEO who's very, very experienced. I have a product CEO. I have an international CEO, So all we need to do now is to just, coordinate, inspire, and, share ideas and strategies with the top management team. So it becomes much easier. Now that has given me time to do other things. So now that I'm free from all of that for the last 5 years, I've now started reinventing myself. So I started doing photography for the last 15 years. I was invited by the Western Australian government to shoot for them. I have now been invited by the Dubai government is holding my exhibition in one of the finest art galleries in Dubai in November. I have a whole month of art being shown over there, my photographs over there. I sing for charity for an old ladies home. And again, there's a purpose behind it. I do photography for blind children and I sing for old age homes. So, then now I've got offers as a writer now, because, I did a book with Ashwin Sanghi 3 years ago, which became a bestseller, all 13 Steps to Bloody Good Health, by Westland. And then I got an offer from HarperCollins to do my biography, which I did last year. And now I've just come out with this other book, and I've got another 3-4 books in the annual. 2 of them will come out this year. So now I'm also kind of a celebrated author. So I'm saying it's a different role altogether, And now next week, 2 weeks ago, I'm now singing ghazals for a select audience. Mehndi Hassan and Jasjeet Singh and all of that, Farida Khanum. So I think if you you have to have a purpose for living, and you have to keep rediscovering yourself, and you have to find something very interesting, exciting, which keeps you going. So if you get up from the wrong side or the right side of the bed, there's just a side. But if you have the right focus in life, and if you have the right direction, and you're actually driven to get there, you will get there somehow. You'll find a way. So I think that's my passion, is to take homeopathy. Now, whether I have to talk to people, whether I have to, take it to many people, whether I have to write books to make it popular, I will make sure that I take out time to do it. There's no question.
This is what you've just spoken is such an inspiration. One of the big takeaways for me beyond medicine is that, how someone needs to organize things and build efficiencies to be able to reinvent what you are doing to bring it to scale and make it accessible. It's such a beautiful thing. I mean, what an inspiration. Dr. Batra, while we are doing what we really need to do, not everything is successful. And like you said that, there are failures that everybody will face, but it has to be a failure, has to be a stepping stone for the next move. What is that one challenge professionally that you have seen which saddens you till date?
There's not one, there are many actually. So, because, it's very difficult for being in the profession to talk something which is not so good about the profession. But every system of medicine has its limitations and every system of medicine has its benefits. So as far as homeopathy is concerned, and also medicine, I would say, one of the biggest challenges that I face is the quality of education. They say a carpenter is as good as his tools. Now that's a very, very bad analogy to give to kind of compare a carpenter to a doctor, but that's not what I mean. But what I really mean is that you need to be good in medicine. You need to be good in the art of healing, because a doctor has to have compassion as well. It's not just about, he's a healer, and today lots of problems are psychosomatic. Lots of problems today arise from stress. They result from anxiety. COVID has shown that 25% of an increase of patients of anxiety and depression happened during COVID time because we were isolated. There was a huge sense of loss. I mean, everybody's lost somebody in their family or some friend whom you lost to an unnatural sudden death, So to live with loss, to grieve and to overcome it is a challenge. Now, this cannot be done unless this is taught in medical schools. So emotional health should be a very strong subject in education, which is lacking today. And I believe that this is the same also. A lot of it is covered in homeopathy because it's also psychosomatic medicine. But there needs to be a far better educational system so that the graduates who pass out are really, really top class. And I'm sorry to say that out of whatever 150 odd universities and colleges that we have in India, which turn out almost 20,000 homeopathic students every year as doctors, we really pick and choose only from the top 10 or 12 universities in India. So I'm saying that's the kind of level to which I think education has to reach. So there are some very nice, outstanding homeopathic colleges which compete absolutely with medical colleges in the country. But having said that, there are lots of others who really don't qualify. And I think unless we're able to bring education to the right, and let's understand this, Abhinder, also very interesting part is that in allopathy through MBBS colleges, we are able to churn out around 83,000 students every year. Okay, the need for the country is much larger. So what is happening is that students are going abroad. Like you saw now in the Ukrainian war, how many students had to come back? People, they go to Russia, they go to China, they go to Ukraine, Europe, to other universities where it is cheaper to study medicine. And then they come back and then they practice in India. I think we can, or not. And then we lose that talent. So I think if we have alternative systems of medicine also to fill up that. So you have 20,000 homeopathic doctors passing every year. Okay, you may have a lot of Ayurvedic doctors passing every year. I'm saying all of this, if it was to be built to say match the 80,000 that you have in allopathy, you could then have a very competitive environment and people would have a choice. So today the choice is not numbered well. I mean, we are totally outnumbered in that sense. I'm saying you can't have a 1-to-10 ratio in medicine. You can't have all allopathic hospitals only having allopathy there. Why is it that they don't have a homeopathic division or an Ayurvedic division? I mean, integrated medicine is the thing for the future. I'm saying we've been running for the last 10 years a homeopathic clinic on half a floor in Bahrain of a very large hospital called KIMS. We've been running, even presently, we are running an infertility clinic in Greece, which is one of the largest infertility clinics in the world. They use IVF, they do whatever they have to do. But for patients who can't conceive, we give them homeopathic treatment. So, there are many examples like this which need to be done. So I think one thing that is seriously missing is the standard of education, and then a process of continued medical education. I'm saying you have to train and you have to retrain. I'm saying I always say this, jokingly, that when I used to teach in England, there were specialists who were called doctors in tropical medicine because nobody understood what was measles and what was chicken pox and what was jaundice and what was typhoid. They never knew. You had to have specialist doctors to, the Bara Sahibs and the Gora Sahibs had to be taught what Indian diseases were. Today, with globalization, with commercialization, with flights going, thousands of flights every day, hundreds of thousands of flights every day, the world has become a small place. And we've seen that what happened with one bad or not in China ultimately took over the world. And for 2 years, the world has suffered badly. So I think everything has changed. Now, if doctors are still going to think about chikungunya, or the past or whatever thing is there, it's come and gone. We've had chikungunya, we've had bird flu, now we've had COVID. Now, God knows what next. So unless a doctor hones his skill or her skill and relearns and retrains all the time, and that is my aim for my company also, is of course growth, profit, all those are good words. Okay, and I'm saying if you don't make enough money, you can't sustain yourself. So it's not a bad word. And I totally agree. And because we do that, we can also then reach out to many more people, and we're able to help more people in terms of charity as well. So that's a good thing. But having said that, you need to make sure that I've just lost my train of thought right now. So, but it'll come back to me. So I was ready to. I was
talking about education.
Yeah. So I was talking about education, and I was saying that that if you need to retrain people is what I was saying, doctors.
Yes.
So if whatever I learned 10 years ago is of no use to me today.
Correct.
It's not it's very little use. So unless there's a retraining program for doctors, which again there's no organized platform which makes that happen.
Right.
Like abroad, for example, even our doctors are in Dubai, for example, or London, they have to do a certain CME, which is continuing medical education course, at regular intervals, and they have to get so many points. And if they don't get so many points by attending international conferences or case studies or whatever, presenting case studies, the license is not renewed.
Right.
So I think that kind of a system in education, in medical education particularly, needs to come. Right. So, and the same thing with homeopathy as well.
Yes. So, since you brought up education, I want to ask you that, one is the quality of education that is available, but also what can be done to attract the best students to choose homeopathy? I think
that's really, yeah. So honestly, that's a very difficult question, and I have to be very honest with you. So I think only two things that make that happen. Okay. And really, first of all, it's all about market demand. So the market decides and the marketplace decides. So when there's a need for doctors, it'll automatically fill up. That it's always like that. So when there's a need for a product, the manufacturing will go up. If there's no need, it'll die. So I think the need for homeopaths and alternative medicine, or complementary medicine, and it is growing like 25% back to back, and it's growing all over the world. So if this growth continues happening in the future as well, and it's now estimated that there's going to be a 7% CAGR growth in the next 15 years or so, 20 years. So if that is going to happen, automatically there will be more and more doctors will be attracted. So obviously then they get better jobs, they get better ways to earn money, and to sustain themselves. And therefore they're going to turn to homeopathy. The second thing, of course, is that unfortunately, even today, a lot of it also by default. So if you don't get admission into a medical college, and my Pitaji has told me, my Dadaji has told me that doctor to banna hai. You either have to be an IAS officer, or you have to be a doctor, you have to be an engineer. So if these, as life is changing now you're starting getting new professions which are skill based, which were not there earlier. Now the moment this happens, then there'll be a greater need for people to actually turn to homeopathy as well, because they will say, fine, it's fashionable to become a homeopath. Okay, and that time is going to come now. Because it's holistic medicine, I can go and talk to them. And already I would think that there are many colleges in India, just to share with you, where 90% of the homeopaths are women. And it's the first option for women actually now. So earlier it used to be allopathy, then dentistry, then homeopathy in terms of education. Today, for many people, homeopathy is the first option. Why is it a first option, especially for women? Why? Because you can work from home, you can practice from home. There are no emergencies. You don't have to run to hospital, every time. So you don't have to be with the patient all the time. You're just really treating with, chronic problems, which are long lasting, over a period of time duration. So, there's not much stress from getting out of domesticity, and you can keep your practice, and you can still look after home. I mean, for a work-life balance, it's one of the best professions that you can have, especially for women. So I believe that more and more women in the workforce in homeopathy are going to come in the future.
Got it. Got it. So, I believe allopathy, in my opinion, is the newest form of medicine practice. But still, we call homeopathy, which is much older, naturopathy, and all these forms of medicine as an alternative medicine. I mean, you just used this word in your last answer that, so what can be done to bring this to the forefront, or is there a reason why allopathy is considered as the main form and everything else is the alternate medicine?
So that's again a good question and a difficult question to answer, but let me just try. So the first thing is that, allopathy is not the youngest system of medicine. It has just been commercialized recently, but it has been there from, BC, from the time of Hippocrates, was really thought to be the founder of modern medicine. Okay, Ayurveda is even almost 2000 years old, much older. Homeopathy is actually the new kid on the block. It is the youngest system of medicine, and yet is the fastest growing, and yet is the second largest, because it's only 250 years old compared to the rest. So it's actually the other way around. But having said that, why is it not grown the way it should have grown? And one simple answer for that is really the pharma industry. It's a very, very strong lobby, which kind of controls, and they spend a lot on advocacy. So, and we've seen that happening all over in many, many countries. So, for example, it was very, very popular in America, about 100 years ago, and then suddenly they wanted to kill it, and so there was legislation, and then homeopathy was not allowed. Again, in the last 10 years, it's again now emerging again very strongly in America. So these kind of things, because there's a public demand. Like you said, that I actually went and addressed a conference of pediatricians, because they said in US, because they said that our patients are asking us that can we take homeopathic medicines for childhood asthma, for allergies, for tonsillitis, and we have no answer. So at least we want to learn how can it help. So I think there's an awareness that is being created also. But having said that, there's a very strong lobby, which is very strongly pharma-based, pharmaceutical-based, money-based, power-based, which does not allow any other system to flourish. And so we are really up against the wall. But like I said, if you perceive, you always get somewhere.
I'm sure.
So somewhere by just driving nail by nail, somewhere we'll break the wall and we'll bring the wall down.
Absolutely. So how big is the homeopathy industry worldwide? And what about India? And how big is it in India? And what is the role that, what is the part that Dr. Batras homeopathy controls?
So control is really not a good word, because we really don't control anything. And we don't want to control anything. We just want it to go out of control. We want it to grow so much that it goes out of control, that everybody just loses it. And I think here comes the biggest challenge. I mean, of course, I will give you some figures first. So, for example, now the global homeopathic size is projected to be 1,379.9 million by 2028. Okay, and presently it's 850 million. So 850 million US dollars is where the size was last year. And like I said, it's supposed to grow 7%. So it's a very big market, expanding market. All right. In India, unfortunately, a lot of it is unorganized trade. So I always say that homeopathy is in the state where Lijjat Papad was, or where Papad industry was, until Lijjat came into the field and then kind of, put everybody on a platform and then expanded. And that's something that I hope to do at least one day as well. That's also my dream, that we are able to actually put all the professionals together on a platform and then kind of, actually corporatize it in some way and get the benefits of that, rather than having small individual players. So today there are lots of individual players in homeopathy, and lots of it is therefore not formalized. It's not a formal industry. So because it's not a formal industry, which is why there are no real authentic figures, because a lot of it comes in practice. So the only figures that you have are really of the drug trade or the homeopathic pharmacy trade, which is also very limited. Now, why is it limited again? Because all over the world, it's so popular and it's so large because of the OTC products. In India, we don't have OTC products. We are very limited, and they are only sold through homeopathic pharmacies. So they're very limited. So in every city, we have hardly 3 or 4 pharmacies which are selling homeopathic products. So the consumer really doesn't have a choice, and the reach is not there, which is what you have when you have a very strong supply chain management system, which pharma industry has, which allopathy has, which homeopathy does not have in India, which they have in other parts of the world. So for example, you can walk into a Boots in London any boot store, and you'll get homeopathic medicine for migraine, backache, all that. Similarly, all over France, every pharmacy has a homeopathic division. Every pharmacy in Europe almost has a homeopathic division. So a patient can go to a pharmacy, pick up a medicine of choice and try it himself, and doesn't need to go to a doctor. In India, it's the other way around. In India, you don't have the pharmacies which have OTC products, but you have doctors. So India has 200,000 homeopathic doctors, which are the largest in the world. Okay. 500 million people take homeopathy, out of which 50 million are from India. So 5 crore people. So it has the largest homeopathic practitioners and the largest homeopathic patient base in the world. But it doesn't have the largest turnover as far as the industry is concerned. So for that to happen, you need to actually supplement OTC products, a proper supply chain system and distribution system, which I think is at least 10 years away and which is something that we are trying to do with my company. But like I said, we are still 10 years away to even come to some level of that kind of competence and reach that we should have to actually make it a household name. But again, like I said, we'll get there. We are trying and we'll get there.
So how many clinics does Dr. Batras Homeopathy has globally?
So, well, actually we lost count because as we speak, we opened one clinic. We opened one in Shimla yesterday. But it's over 200 clinics across the world. We are in 7 countries. We are in London, we are in Greece, we are in Estonia, we are in Abu Dhabi, we are in Dubai, we are in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, and of course we are in India. And in India, we are in more than 133 cities. And we are kind of almost in 150 cities all over the world today. And we are still hoping to grow. So, like I said, we want to reach homeopathy to every part of the world. And not only that, so not only do we want to see that the consumer has a choice, but we want them to experience scientific homeopathy. We want them to experience something which will benefit them with enough research figures, not something that will just vague or hocus pocus. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I'm saying something which is backed by clinical trials, something which is backed by clinical research, something which is definitive rather than being vague. So that's the aim, and that is what we try to take to every part of the world. And just to give an example, for example, we started in Dubai, I think of almost 15 years ago, and in Dubai Healthcare City. And we are still the only Indian company over there because they are very, very strict audit rules. And happy to say that we passed each and every one of them. And that also helps us to sustain because we're very process driven, because we actually have measured outcomes for treatment, which are scientifically based. So that allows us to then sustain and grow in a developed world, we have all of this in Dubai. And like I said, we have passed all these stringent things. So you can't sustain for 15 years in a foreign country, in a developed country, with the kind of strict audits that, food and health are the most regulated. So unless you are really very, very good at your game, unless you're right on the top of it, you can't grow. But so what I believe, therefore, is that, having had great medical outcomes and having popularized it, we found that when we started, we were only treating NRIs in Dubai or in UAE. Today, 30% of our practice are locals. So we've now been able to actually convert lots of Arabs, lots of East European people who work there also towards homeopathy. So, like I said,
So you're not just impacting India, you're impacting worldwide.
So I'll just quote a little bit that comes to my mind. The woods are lovely, dark and deep. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have many promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. That's Frost. That's Frost, one of my favorite poets, and that's also philosophy of life. Right. That as they said in that movie, MBBS, Munna Bhai, lage raho Munna Bhai. So you have to just keep trying until you actually get there.
Sir, on that note, I want to ask you one more thing. Now you have 200 clinics. Now Dr. Mukesh Batra can't be everywhere. Dr. Mukesh Batra is a passionate homeopath. He's a passionate entrepreneur. He's a passionate, giver, believer in the philosophy. How do you ensure that the doctors who represent Dr. Batra's homeopathy share the same passion and with which they deliver their services?
Again, a very difficult question. Let me reply it in two ways. So the first is, how do you bring them to the same educational and the clinical competence? Okay, that's an easier way to answer, because you want to answer that by saying that, first of all, you start with the selection of doctors. So because we select only the top doctors, which are almost the 2% of the creamy layer from all the top medical colleges in homeopathy, which is why the quality of doctors that we choose and start with are normally far better than any other individual doctor across the country. So then when your base is stronger, it's easier to grow from there. Now, not only that, you'll be amazed to know that I think for the last 20 years or so, the doctors that we take not only have to appear for an MD level medical exam with papers which are set and corrected by MD doctors, top MD doctors who are on our board. Not only that, but every doctor who joins the organization has also to undergo a psychometric analysis. Because the idea is that they may be good with medicine, but they may not be good with people. And here you are there to serve. You're not sitting on the chair and showing off. You're sitting on the chair to serve people. So unless you have that inbuilt in you in some way, you cannot do it. Now, once that is done, then there's a knowledge management portal. I've created what is called a Dr. Batras masterclass, where personally I spent 2 years in making videos for training and all of that. And these are then replicated through an intranet program, which we have in the company. So any doctor can go and look at any case study, cross-reference it, learn what benefited some other patient in some other village, even if it's Jhumri Talaiya. Agar wahan pe bhi koi mareez theek ho gaya, the benefit of that can come to a bigger city like London, and vice versa. So I think making all these, so I think educational excellence, and also through software, making sure that you can't go to the next step unless you filled in all the correct fields in a case. So for example, just to give an example, in cases of hair loss, for example, in women, we found 60% of them in big cities suffer from anemia. Now, unless the doctor does a ferritin test for a woman, it will not allow the doctor to enter the next field. He can't treat the patient. So he has to enter it. Now, when he enters it once, then he has to enter it again after 12 weeks to see the difference. So then it gets recorded, which is clinically recorded that the patient is actually, hemoglobin has improved, and therefore the hair falling has stopped. So things like that. So this is the way we kind of, through processes, systems, and training and correct selection, is what we maintain the medical quality over. Okay, I think that was an easy one to answer. Now to talk about how to keep the passion alive is really very difficult. I think it comes from leadership, and it comes from developing local leadership. So every, what we call CHC, which is a chief homeopathy consultant, who's actually in charge, like I would say a profit head, as you call in business, or a clinic head in medicine of a particular branch, is actually inspired to follow a very strong value system. I'm saying the one thing that I'm proud of is that whatever I've created with a very strong value system. And I believe that what happens is that the value system is something which you experience, it's something which you live, something which comes naturally. It's not something that you train people in. Okay, it comes by watching, it comes by observing. So I think if they find that the leadership is strong, if they find that the leadership is honest, if they find that the leadership is passionate, a little bit of it rubs off on them. I remember this interesting tale that I was telling to one of the airlines. I don't want to name them now, but I said, when you give a uniform to somebody in the airline and they're sitting and having a chat in a coffee shop and they're talking gossip, okay, you're actually eroding the brand, because they are actually brand ambassadors. So every doctor is a brand ambassador of Dr. Batras, and therefore how they carry themselves forward. And one of the goals I give them is that you should be able to stand up proudly and say, "Main bhi Dr. Batra." And if you can say, "Main bhi Dr. Batra," and if every doctor across the organization feels that way and reaches out to people with the same care and the same humility and the same expertise, that is how then the brand will grow. And that's how the brand goes. So having said that, again, I said we try hard. I think a lot of it is covered, but obviously not all of it. It's an ongoing process. You have to live and learn, and you have to experience it. You have to keep improving yourself.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Batra, I'm going to ask you a few questions related to homeopathy. Because what I've heard most people say is that homeopathy is a very slow process. Is that true?
It's really a myth, because what happens really is that people come to homeopathy very often in the last stage, like when nothing else works, then they come to homeopathy. Also, they come to homeopathy for chronic problems. They're coming to homeopathy for, diabetes, high blood pressure, arthritis, skin problems, psoriasis, which are really 10 years, migraines, 10 years, 20 years old. So I always say that if you have a problem for 20 years, at least give 20 months for it to get all right. At least 1 month for every year. Also, how this works also is that if you have an acute problem, you get very good results and you get very quick results. So for example, if you have a cold and cough, you can get all right in the next day, within 24 hours. And what is important is that it does not make you feel weak. So you can start working from the next day onwards. Unlike when you're taking antibiotics and when you're taking strong medication, sometimes it takes you even 1 week or 10 days to really recover from it. So you don't have fever, you don't have cough, but you really feel weak and you get side effects of medication. I think that's a big advantage that you have when you're taking homeopathy, even for acute problems. So when you take it for acute problems, you get quick results with no side effects. When you take it for chronic problems, which are deep-rooted, it takes time. Also, what happens is that homeopathy does not have any superficial treatment. It's holistic medicine. So for example, let me give you a case of a skin problem. You have a skin problem, you use an ointment. It disappears. You stop using the ointment, it comes back again. But when you use, so it's not really gone, it's just superficially, suppressed. We call it suppression. Okay, it's not a cure. But with homeopathy, once it is deep-rooted and you go to the root of the problem, then the problem does not reoccur again for many, many years or never ever. I'm saying one of the most gratifying experiences for me, and I'm always now completing 50 years of practice, 48 years, I find that if I meet a patient, for example, who says, I had a migraine 40 years ago and you maybe took 1 year to treat it, but for the last 39 years, I've never had a headache in my life. And if they add and say that I've never given a headache to somebody else either, then that makes me even prouder. So, then even they're emotionally well balanced. But yeah, I mean, that's just in a lighter vein, but that's how it is. So I think, actually when you go to treat from the root of the problem, when you're looking at fundamental changes to come, I think it takes a little time, especially when you're treating holistically, when you're treating the psychological aspect plus the physical aspect, mind and body together, and then trying to root it forever. That's the challenge, and that takes time, and especially in today's world, because today we are all making all the wrong lifestyle changes. And lots of problems today are lifestyles, and lots of diseases today are NCDs, as they are called, non-communicable disorders. So I think actually, therefore, depending on homeopathy, I always say homeopathy is 21st century medicine. I mean, it's the medicine of this century because it's holistic, because it says mind and body together. And today, because the world today needs it. It needs it because of the kind of lifestyle that we are living in. We are living in an age of conflict. I'm saying today, countries, neighbors are fighting with each other, countries are fighting with each other, people are fighting with each other, families are fighting with each other, husband and wife are fighting. There's domestic violence today, there's marital rape. I'm saying we never heard of all these things earlier. Either social media is bringing them out, whatever it is, or media is bringing them out, So we are now living in a more transparent world. But even then, I think all of this, we are today really fighting with ourselves all the time. And therefore, we need a medicine which is calmer, soother, which is naturally ingrained with environment around you, and which balances your health, mind and body together. So there's a much bigger need for homeopathy in today's world than ever before.
Right. Sir, I observed that during our conversation, several times you brought in this example of migraine, right? What is the cause of migraine in your opinion, and does homeopathy have a complete cure for migraine?
Yes, it does, in one very simple answer. And there are many, many, many reasons for migraine. I mean, it could be intrinsic or it could be external. So external reasons, of course, are stress as one of the common reasons. It can also be caffeine. It can be anything that, kind of causes excitement in that sense. And it can give rise to very, very severe headaches with nausea, vomiting, as you know. Why does homeopathy help, or is the preferred choice? Again, because it is holistic. Because in migraine, there are different medicines. You're not just taking a painkiller, because that can subside the headache for the time being, but it comes back again. So you need to use something which is holistic. And because homeopathy is holistic, because you need to understand the environment of the person. Is the person under stress? Is the person stressed in the office or at home? We did a research for my last book, and I found that the maximum stress that a person has today at work is with the immediate boss. So if your immediate boss is tough, you're going to get a migraine, And if the immediate boss is easygoing, there are less chances of you getting a headache, Similarly, domestic. If you have an incompatible marriage, or if you're not in a happy situation, there's a daughter-in-law, mother-in-law problem in every home, and you're living it every day. You can't be peaceful. So these are all triggers for headaches. But why is it that some people get it and others don't? So again, I'm saying it's also a personality disorder in that sense. That's what we think in homeopathy. So people who are very fastidious, very particular, who have kind of borderline OCDs, they get worried that, exactly, you told me, isko aisa rakho, aisa nahi rakho, aisa rakho. Nahi, ye sahi nahi hai. Nahi, aisa rakho. It must be just so. It must be just perfect. So I think perfectionism precipitates migraine. And I've seen that in my practice. So treating the person as a whole and treating him mentally as well and emotionally as well actually helps to get rid of migraine.
Right. Similarly, my second question related to medicine is, sir, we see a lot of diabetic cases in our country. And, we are probably now known as the diabetic capital of the world. Yes. And which is also a very big opportunity. While it's a challenge, it's a big opportunity when it comes to pharma industry, right? And what cure, and I'm using the word very carefully, that what cure can homeopathy offer for diabetes?
So first of all, the word cure does not exist. Okay, it doesn't exist in medicine because then it's something which is not measurable, which is relative. So whenever you're talking about a chronic problem, you can talk about a cure when there's an acute problem. You can talk about a cure when you have a cold or a cough or whatever, but even that comes back again. So you're really talking about a long-term remission. What you're talking about when you're talking about diabetes is how well can you live your life, and for what period of time can you be sugar-free. I'm not plugging in for any brand, okay? So that's not the right expression. But for how long can you not have sugar in your blood, or for how long can you not have diabetes, and how long can you be free from diabetes? I'm saying that's really the challenge. So there are two ways to do this, and there are two types of diabetes. First of all, you have type 1 diabetes, which is often inherent because the body doesn't produce enough insulin, and then these people, even teenagers and kids, are then put on insulin injections for the rest of their life. There's very little that homeopathy can do in such cases. I mean, there are some rare cases that they're able to get off insulin, but it really doesn't work in such cases. So that is just the treatment of choice. For type 1 diabetes, you take insulin, you do what your diabetologist tells you to do, and endocrinologist tells you to do, and stick with it. And be happy that you're living life comfortably well. Okay, so no issues on that. Now let's come to type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is something which is really lifestyle related. So a lot of the treatment also benefits come when you change your lifestyle. So because we have no exercise, because we are living under stress, okay, because we're eating the wrong kind of food, because we are all, having quick, a sandwich on the run, not sitting and eating, no family meals, no warm dinners, cold food, cold heart, all of that contributes to diabetes. So changing lifestyle actually helps. And again, because homeopathy is holistic, it's a very, very good add-on treatment. There was a very interesting research that was done many years ago in Athens, Greece. What it showed was that with your oral anti-diabetic medicine, you could control blood sugar at that time for 47% of the patients. When you added homeopathy to it, the control became 97%. So you got a 50% additional benefit. And which is also why homeopathy now internationally is not called alternative medicine. It's a compromise that we made with the drug industry. We call it complementary. We say, okay, you do what you're doing, but we will support you. And we will kind of make sure that there are no side effects, and we'll try to overcome that. That's the kind of, so in diabetes particularly, if you add homeopathic treatment to whatever you're taking, and you can then gradually taper it off, and you can then become chemical free. But it takes a long time. It's over a period of time. But, it can be done. Ultimately, I'm saying you have to eat well, you have to sleep well, you have to think well. If you want to be really free from diabetes, you want to make sure that, you follow a correct lifestyle. And also that you don't become over dependent on medicines, because some people are sensitive. At some stage, they will start getting side effects of medicines if they take it for too long. But I always say this, I say that a diabetic, okay, if he's well controlled, he actually lives a better quality of life than a normal person. Why? Because he goes regularly for medical checkups. He's fitter because he goes for walks. Okay. So he's under medical supervision most times. So it's very unlikely that he'll get some sudden problem. So actually he's healthier as long as he's a controlled diabetic. The problem comes when you have uncontrolled diabetes. So when you have uncontrolled diabetes, then it can affect your heart, it can affect your kidneys, you can get kidney failure for a long-term period, you can get eye problems, you can get blindness also, retinal detachment when you have diabetes for a long period of time. So it does affect other organs as well. So as long as you can avoid complications of diabetes and you can live your life to the fullest, I think you should be a happy person.
But a lot of people say that, for having homeopathy medicines, you need to leave non-vegetarian anything. Is that true? Or what is your suggestion or recommendation?
So I am a vegetarian and I almost a vegan by choice.
Right.
I believe that it has done wonderful to my health. I believe that plant-based medicine and plant-based diet is really one of the best diets. It will bring down your cholesterol, your sugar levels, it'll actually make you much more active. Okay. So I believe that, I personally believe in it hugely. I also believe because homeopathy is human medicine. It's called human medicine because it looks at the person as a whole. It understands problems. Okay. And it is not invasive. It doesn't give you injections and treatments and those kind of shock treatments that are given otherwise. So it's called human medicine right from the start. So I also believe that to be a practitioner of human medicine, you should also be human to animals. So I'm also a vegetarian from the human point of view. I believe that why do you need to kill animals for meat? The meat industry is one of the biggest pollutants in the world. If today we are talking about global warming, if even half the world was to become vegetarian, we can still fly in planes and we can do everything else. We don't have to worry about it. Okay. So I'm saying from a holistic point of view, from a world point of view, I think saving the planet point of view, vegetarian and veganism is one of the best things, and from a personal health point of view, and again from having a choice. And today, I've just come. I was last week in London, and I visited so many vegan restaurants, and they have mock meat there. They have this, Linda McCarthy, who's done this, Beyond Meat brand. I'm saying it tastes better than regular meat, and so you can enjoy meat. Why do you need to kill an animal?
Of course,
it's as simple as that.
I think that's really nice.
But that's my personal view. Now coming to my professional view is that there is no diet restriction in homeopathy at all. Okay, that's a myth. You can eat and drink whatever you like. Okay. It was believed earlier that you can't take coffee, you can't take garlic, you can't take none of that. The basic thing is that homeopathic medicines act through nerve endings. So which is why they say that the best way to take homeopathic medicine is under your tongue, because that's got the maximum nerve endings over there. And you just suck your medicine, homeopathic medicine. Now, whether you take it as a pill or a drop or whatever, you can just, that's how it works best. So because of that, it was said that anything which is stimulant or depressant can affect the action of homeopathy medicine. In today's world, we believe that we are constantly living in with either stimulants or depressant. Either we are up or down. So some good news makes you happy, some bad news makes you sad. It's happening all the time. So whether coffee is a stimulant or not, it is. But if you shake it up, if you're used to it, and you shake it up, then the variation in your stimulation will be so high that the effect of homeopathic medicine will actually come down. So what we say is continue doing whatever you're doing, continue living your own lifestyle.
Right.
Whatever suits you. But when you take homeopathic medicines, keep a half an hour gap before and after food.
Okay.
Having said that, then there are certain diet restrictions, and this is also very interesting, that you asked this question, because when Hahnemann founded homeopathy, he said this one line. He said, every man's stomach is like his foot. Every man's stomach is like his foot, just like one shoe doesn't fit everybody. So he was against universal diet. So we don't believe in universal diet because you may not like a bangan, I may not like a tinda.
Right.
And we could both react to it differently.
Right.
So homeopathy is for personalized diets. Homeopathy is for personalized. So what suits you may not suit somebody else. But having said that, the only restriction is a medical restriction. So for example, if you've got high blood pressure, then you should take less salt. If you've got edema or water in your body, you should reduce your salt intake. Obviously, if you've got diabetes, you should not take too much of carbohydrate and too much of sugar. So all that still holds good. But that's from a medical point of view. It has nothing to do with homeopathic medicines.
So there's a science behind everything and what suits your body and your condition. Right?
Absolutely.
that brings me to my next questions, and I know I'm taking a little more time, but I really want to take advantage of you being available. I'll restrict myself to next two questions. I want to know a little bit more about your latest book, which is Homeopathy: Simple Remedies for All Ages. What is the motivation, and what is it that you talk about in this book?
This one.
Perfect. Yes.
I'm glad to tell you that even pre-release, it was a #1 bestseller on Amazon. And we just launched it yesterday in Bombay at a Crossword store. So the idea really is very simple. I've put in 50 years of practical experience, and I wanted other people to benefit from it. So the first idea was that could I share my experience with other people so that they could benefit. My second idea for this book really was that it's a DIY book, do-it-yourself book. Okay, it's really something which people can treat themselves for minor ailments and even for chronic ailments before they become larger, before they have to rush to hospitals. So if it can save stress, time, energy, money for hospitalization, for visits to doctors, for expensive consultations, I think the book would have served its purpose. I always say that, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And so the success of the book will only depend on not only how many people read and buy it, but how many people actually benefit from it. So it's like an encyclopedia, which can be used as a reference book for problems, and it has so many years of my experience behind it. So I'm very sure that lots of people will be able to benefit from my experience and use it to nip disease in the bud rather than allowing them to grow. And of course, as you know, that it's always the woman of the house who's kind of the family doctor. It's the daughter-in-law, it's the mother-in-law, it's the dadi ma ke nusse, as we say. So I hope that many women actually read it and they actually benefit from it and they learn from it, so that they can use this as part of the family kit in their home, and the family can benefit.
So what are the 3, 4, 5 myths about homeopathy that you want to break to the world and let them know the reality?
I think one of it we've already broken, which is that homeopathy is slow. The other thing is that homeopathy makes the disease worse before it makes it better. This is a total myth. It's a myth, Norma. What happens is only in the case of suppression and in the case of elimination. So for example, if you have a sinus problem and you take homeopathic medicine, your cold may become worse. Mm-hmm. What it is doing is, it is just pushing it out of the body, what is suppressed. And then your sinuses are getting cleared and you don't have to get them off with it. Mm-hmm. That's an example I'm giving you. Okay. Similarly, if you have water retention, maybe you have to just pass urine more frequently. So that's a way of elimination. And similarly, if you have a suppression of a skin problem, after you take it, you use ointments for many years, maybe the skin problem for some time becomes a little worse, and then it disappears. It's a process of elimination. So in such cases, but it's totally untrue. For example, if your child has got 100 fever, that if it becomes 101, it's actually a good sign. It's not. That's just a progression of the disorder. So don't attribute it to homeopathy, and don't think that it's actually helping. You need to really take help in that case. So it's really a misconception that people have, that it makes the disease worse and then makes it better.
So Dr. Batra, this interview, personally for me, I think it's been one of the best because, apart from knowing Dr. Mukesh Batra as a homeopath, I, for the first time, have known you as a person. The taking up of photography, the love for art and singing for a purpose, and how you have actually, like I said before, organized your profession based on your passion in a manner that it is now scalable, accessible, and affordable to the world. It's very, very beautiful. But before I let you go, because you have accepted that you sing, I want you to sing before I end this interview.
God.
I think I can take the liberty to request.
Okay. Do you want a one-hour concert? I'm saying no, just joking. So I think I'll hum 2 lines for you from one of my favorite songs of Kishore Kumar, which I sing for my grandson, which is my vision for everybody, for the world, for a happier, peaceful, and a healthier world. That's my dream. चल के तुझे मैं लेके चलूं एक ऐसे गगन के तले जहां गम भी न हो आंसू भी न हो बस प्यार ही प्यार पले एक ऐसे गगन के तले एक ऐसे गगन के तले, एक ऐसे गगन के तले. So with that happy wish, thank you for your time and thank you for.
It has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. It's an honor for us to have you on our show, and we look forward to more interactions with you in the coming times. And all the best for your book.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and good luck to all and good health to all your viewers. Thank you.
Take care.